Marcus froze in the doorway of his father's study, his $1 million suit wrinkled from the long flight home. What he saw made his blood turn ice cold. There was his father, the powerful CEO of Sterling Industries, the man who had never shown a single tear in 63 years, sobbing like a broken child in the arms of Rosa, their quiet housemaid. His father's massive shoulders shook with each sob, and Rosa held him tight, whispering something in Spanish that Marcus couldn't understand. "Papa is gone," his father cried into Rosa's apron. "He's really gone." Marcus stepped back, his heart pounding. His grandfather had died 3 days ago, yes, but his father had seemed fine at the funeral. Cold, distant, normal. But this was not normal. Rosa looked up and saw Marcus standing there. Her dark eyes went wide with panic. But then something strange happened. Her face changed completely. The scared look disappeared, replaced by something Marcus had never seen before: power, determination, like she had been waiting for this exact moment her entire life. She gently pushed his father away and stood up straight, her small frame suddenly looking 10 feet tall. "Mr. Marcus," she said, her voice steady and strong. "I think it's time you learned the truth about your family." His father's head snapped up, terror filling his eyes. "Rosa, no," his father whispered. "Please, not like this." But Rosa ignored him completely. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out an old, yellowed envelope. The paper looked like it was 100 years old. "Your grandfather left this for you before he died," she said, holding it toward Marcus. "He made me promise to give it to you only if your father ever broke down. Only if he couldn't handle the secret anymore." Marcus stared at the envelope like it was a bomb about to explode. What secret could be so terrible that it made his iron-willed father cry like a baby? And why did Rosa, just a housemaid, seem to know more about his family than he did? The envelope trembled in Rosa's outstretched hand, and Marcus realized that everything he thought he knew about his life was about to change forever. 2 hours earlier, Marcus had been sitting in his private jet, celebrating another billion-dollar deal. Life was perfect. He owned 3 companies, had houses in 5 countries, and everyone called him a genius. But now, staring at that envelope, he remembered something strange from his childhood. Rosa had always been different from other maids. She never acted scared around his grandfather like everyone else did. While other servants whispered and tiptoed around the old man, Rosa would argue with him. Actually argue! And his grandfather would just laugh and pat her hand like she was family. "Rosa has been with us for 40 years, his father had always said. "She's practically part of the family." But Marcus never understood what that really meant. Until now. "Take it," Rosa said again, her voice cutting through his memories. "Your grandfather wanted you to know before it was too late." Marcus looked at his father, who was still sitting on the floor, his face buried in his hands. The most powerful man he knew looked completely broken. "Dad, what's going on?" Marcus asked, his voice shaking. His father looked up with red, swollen eyes. "Son, there are things I never told you, things I was too scared to tell you." "What things?" "About why we have so much money. About how your grandfather really built this empire. About Rosa." His father's voice cracked. "About who Rosa really island." Marcus felt dizzy. Rosa stepped forward, the envelope still in her hand. "Your grandfather was not a good man, Marcus," she said quietly. "He hurt a lot of people to build Sterling Industries. And the biggest secret of all," she paused, looking directly into his eyes, "he hurt my family the most." "I don't understand," Marcus whispered. Rosa's hand moved to a small golden locket around her neck, a locket Marcus had seen her wear every day for 20 years but never thought to ask about. She opened it with a soft click. Inside was a tiny, faded photograph of a beautiful young woman who looked exactly like Rosa, standing next to a handsome man in an expensive suit. But it wasn't just any man. It was his grandfather, 50 years younger, but definitely his grandfather. "This," Rosa said, her voice breaking for the first time, "is my mother. And that man next to her? Your grandfather promised to marry her." Instead, he stole everything she had and left her to die in poverty. Marcus's world started spinning, but Rosa wasn't done. "And Marcus," she said, tears now streaming down her face, "my mother was pregnant when he abandoned her." The room went dead silent, except for the sound of Marcus's heart hammering in his chest. "Pregnant?" he whispered. Rosa nodded, her eyes locked on his. "Which means Marcus Sterling." She took a deep breath. "You're looking at your sister." Marcus stumbled backward like he'd been punched in the stomach. "That's impossible," he gasped. "You're lying." But even as he said it, he knew it wasn't a lie. Everything suddenly made sense. Why Rosa never looked at him like other servants did. Why she always seemed to know things about the family that no maid should know. Why his grandfather always smiled when he saw her, even though he was cruel to everyone else. "Show him the letter," his father whispered from the floor. "Show him what Papa confessed before he died." Rosa's hands shook as she opened the yellowed envelope. Inside was a handwritten note in his grandfather's messy writing. "Marcus, if you're reading this, then Rosa finally told you the truth. I was a coward. I loved Rosa's mother, Maria, more than life itself. But I was engaged to your grandmother for her family's money. I chose money over love. I chose power over doing what was right. Maria died alone and poor, and I let Rosa grow up thinking she was nobody. I gave her a job in our house so I could watch her from far away, but I never had the courage to tell her she was my daughter. She is your aunt, Marcus, and she deserves half of everything we own. Marcus read the letter 3 times, his hands shaking worse each time. Rosa watched him with tears streaming down her face. "Wait," Marcus said suddenly, looking up. "Aunt? Not sister?" Rosa wiped her eyes and nodded. "Your grandfather was my father. Your father's half-brother in blood. That makes you my nephew, not my brother." Marcus felt relief and horror at the same time. Relief that Rosa wasn't his sister, but horror that his family had been lying to her and to him for decades. "So all these years," Marcus said slowly, "you've been cleaning our house, cooking our food, taking care of us, and we're actually family?" "Yes," Rosa whispered. "All these years I've been serving the family that should have been mine, too." Marcus looked at his father, who was still crying. "Dad, did you know?" His father nodded miserably. "I found out when I was 25. Papa made me promise never to tell anyone. He said it would ruin the family name. He said Rosa was better off not knowing." "Better off?" Rosa's voice exploded with anger. "Better off thinking I was worthless? Better off working like a slave for my own family?" Marcus stood up, his mind racing. He walked to the family portrait hanging on the wall, 4 generations of Sterling men, all looking proud and powerful. But now he saw something else in their eyes. Guilt, shame, secrets. He turned back to Rosa, and for the first time in his life, he really looked at her. The shape of her nose was exactly like his father's. Her eyes were the same deep blue as his grandfather's had been. How had he never noticed? "Rosa," he said quietly, "I'm so sorry. We all failed you." But Rosa shook her head, wiping away her tears. Her face was changing again, getting that powerful look from before. "I don't want your apologies, Marcus," she said firmly. "I want justice." She reached into her apron again and pulled out a thick folder full of papers. "For 40 years I've been collecting evidence, bank records, legal documents, proof of everything your grandfather stole from my mother, proof of how he cheated other families too." Marcus stared at the folder like it was full of dynamite. "What kind of evidence?" he asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. Rosa smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had been planning revenge for a very long time. "The kind that will destroy Sterling Industries forever," she said, "unless you help me make things right." Marcus felt like the room was spinning around him. "What do you mean, make things right?" Rosa opened the folder and spread papers across his father's massive desk. Marcus saw bank statements, old contracts, and photographs of families he didn't recognize. "Your grandfather didn't just steal from my mother," Rosa said, pointing to the documents. "He destroyed 12 other families, too. The Johnson family lost their farm. The Rodriguez family lost their restaurant. The Chen family lost their entire savings." She pulled out a photograph of a young couple holding a baby. "This is the Williams family. Your grandfather promised to invest their life savings in a guaranteed business deal. Instead, he took their money and used it to buy his first building. They ended up homeless." Marcus picked up the photo with shaking hands. The baby in the picture had his grandfather's eyes. "Are you saying that baby grew up to be homeless because your grandfather stole from his parents?" Rosa nodded. "That baby died on the streets when he was 16. His name was David Williams." Marcus dropped the photo like it was on fire. His billion-dollar empire was built on the graves of innocent people. "But Rosa," his father said weakly from the floor, "if you reveal all this, everyone will lose their jobs. The company will collapse. Thousands of families depend on Sterling Industries now." Rosa's eyes flashed with anger. "And what about the thousands of families your father destroyed? Don't they matter?" Marcus looked back and forth between them, his mind racing. If Rosa went public with this evidence, it would be the end of everything. The newspapers would have a field day. Billionaire family built on blood money. The stock would crash. The company would die. But if he tried to stop her, how could he? She was family. She was right. "What do you want?" Marcus asked quietly. Rosa walked to the window and looked out at the massive Sterling Industries building gleaming in the distance. "I want you to give back what was stolen. I've tracked down the surviving family members of everyone your grandfather hurt. Some are still alive. Some have children and grandchildren still struggling because of what he did." She turned back to face him. "I want you to set up a fund, $1 billion, to pay back every family your grandfather destroyed, with interest." Marcus felt his knees go weak. $1 billion? That's almost everything liquid I have. "I know exactly how much you have," Rosa said coldly. "I've been managing this household for 40 years. I know where every penny comes from." His father struggled to his feet. "Rosa, please, think about what you're asking. That money supports thousands of jobs. It funds hospitals, schools." "Built on blood money," Rosa shouted. "Every hospital, every school, every job, all of it paid for with stolen dreams." The room fell silent, except for the ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. The same clock that had been counting the minutes of Rosa's wasted life for 40 years. Marcus closed his eyes and thought about everything he owned. The mansions, the cars, the private jets. All of it suddenly felt dirty, poisoned. But then he thought about something else. The 10,000 people who worked for Sterling Industries. The families who depended on their paychecks. The children who went to schools his company funded. When he opened his eyes, Rosa was watching him with the same intensity his grandfather used to have, waiting for his answer. "If I say no?" Marcus asked. Rosa picked up a different piece of paper from the pile. It was a business card for a newspaper reporter. "Then tomorrow morning, every newspaper in the country gets copies of everything in this folder. By noon, Sterling Industries will be worthless. By evening, you'll be lucky if you're not in prison." Marcus stared at the business card, feeling trapped like a rat in a cage. "And if I say yes?" "Then we do this quietly. We help the families who deserved help 40 years ago. And maybe," Rosa's voice softened slightly, "maybe we can finally be the family we should have been all along." Marcus looked at his father, who was staring at the floor in shame. Then he looked at Rosa, whose eyes held 40 years of pain and anger, but also something else. Hope. Marcus picked up a pen from the desk, his hand trembling. But just as he was about to speak, the study door burst open. Standing in the doorway was Marcus's business partner, Jonathan Hayes, holding a gun pointed directly at Rosa's heart. "I'm sorry, Marcus," Jonathan said with a cold smile, "but I can't let that happen." "Jonathan!" Marcus shouted. What are you doing?" His business partner stepped into the room, keeping the gun trained on Rosa. "I've been listening from the hallway for the past 10 minutes. I can't let you destroy everything we've built." Rosa didn't look scared at all. Instead, she started laughing. It was a sound Marcus had never heard from her before, cold and knowing. "You think I didn't plan for this?" Rosa said calmly. "Jonathan Hayes, born in Miami, 1978. Your real name is Jonathan Rodriguez." Jonathan's face went pale. "How do you—" "Your grandmother was Elena Rodriguez. She owned a small grocery store until Marcus's grandfather stole it from her in 1965. Rosa smiled. "You're one of the families he destroyed, Jonathan. You've been working with the Sterling family for 15 years, and you never even knew they were the ones who ruined your family." The gun shook in Jonathan's hand. Marcus stared at his best friend, the man he'd trusted with his life. "That's impossible," Jonathan whispered. Rosa pulled out another photograph from her folder. It showed a young woman standing proudly in front of a small store called Rodriguez Family Market. The woman looked exactly like Jonathan's mother. "Your grandmother Elena died poor and broken after your grandfather foreclosed on her store illegally," Rosa continued. "She never told your family who really stole from her because she was afraid, but I knew. I've always known." Jonathan lowered the gun, his whole body shaking. "Grandma Elena, she raised me after my parents died. She worked 3 jobs to put me through college. She died cleaning office buildings because the Sterling stole her life," Rosa finished. "Just like they stole mine." Marcus felt sick. His best friend, his business partner, his brother in everything but blood, another victim of his grandfather's greed. "Jonathan, I'm so sorry," Marcus said, tears streaming down his face. "I had no idea." Jonathan looked back and forth between Marcus and Rosa, the gun hanging loose in his hand. 15 years, he whispered. 15 years I've been helping you get richer while my grandmother's killer profited. "But here's the beautiful part," Rosa said, her voice getting stronger. "You can help me fix it. Both of you can." She walked to Jonathan and gently took the gun from his shaking hands. Then she did something that shocked everyone. She handed it to Marcus. "I trust you," she said simply. "You're my nephew. Your family. Real family doesn't hurt each other." Marcus stared at the gun, then threw it across the room. "I don't need a weapon to do what's right." He turned to his father, who was still sitting on the floor looking broken. "Dad, get up. We have work to do." His father looked up with confused eyes. "Son?" "Rosa is right. We're going to make this right. All of it." Marcus walked to his desk and pulled out his checkbook. $1 billion for the family's grandfather hurt. And Jonathan, he looked at his best friend. "Your grandmother's store was worth $50,000 in 1965. With interest over 60 years, that's about $2 million. Consider it a start." Jonathan broke down crying. "Marcus, you don't understand. I came here to stop you because I thought you were going to destroy the company. I need my job. I have kids to feed." "You'll still have your job," Marcus said firmly. "But now you'll know it's built on justice, not blood money." Rosa walked to the window one more time, looking out at the Sterling Industries building. "There's one more thing," she said quietly. "I'm not just your aunt, Marcus. According to the legal documents I found," she turned around with a small smile, "I'm also a 50% owner of Sterling Industries." The room went dead silent. "What?" Marcus and his father said at the same time. Rosa held up an old legal document. "Your grandfather felt so guilty about abandoning my mother that he secretly put half the company in her name. When she died, it passed to me. I've been the real owner of Sterling Industries for 20 years, and I never knew it." Marcus started laughing, not because it was funny, but because it was perfect. "So you don't need me to give you anything. You already own half of everything." "That's right," Rosa said. "But I wanted to see if you would do the right thing even when you thought it would cost you everything. And you did." She walked over and hugged Marcus tight. For the first time in his life, he understood what real family felt like. "So, what happens now?" Jonathan asked, wiping his tears. Rosa smiled, a real smile this time, full of warmth and love. Now we build something beautiful. We keep Sterling Industries running, but we run it with honor. We help families instead of destroying them. We make sure no child ever grows up like I did, wondering if they matter. Marcus looked around the room at his father, still ashamed but ready to change. At Jonathan, his friend, who was also a victim. And at Rosa, the strongest person he'd ever met. Justice, Marcus said, remembering the title Rosa had mentioned. This is what justice really looks like. 6 months later, the Sterling Family Foundation had helped over 300 families. Rosa moved out of the servants' quarters and into the main house, where she belonged. Jonathan became the head of community outreach, making sure no family would ever be abandoned again. And Marcus learned that being truly rich wasn't about how much money you had. It was about how much love you shared. Did this story touch your heart? Share it with someone who needs to remember that justice and family come first. Like if you believe in second chances and making things right. Comment below, what would you have done in Marcus's situation? Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our powerful stories about justice, family secrets, and redemption. Share this story and spread the message that it's never too late to do the right thing.